Well, good morning, everyone. What a pleasure it is to be here. Thank you, Reverend Jill. Thank you for sharing your pulpit with me. Thank you for being a mentor and a friend. Thank you for just having this beautiful center, and I'm very, very grateful. So thank you. And Cerise, she just walked out. But I have to tell you, her gift, when I found out I was going to speak today, and I found out that she was going to be singing, I was like so touched and so moved. And that song really hits home for me that we are always home in the divine, and that we can never be apart from it, and that my joy is present everywhere. It's really up to me to notice it and be aware of it and tap into it. So I'm going to talk today. We're starting our series, our December series, on glad tidings of great joy. Well, I noticed, though, that as we're celebrating these wonderful holidays and traditions and all the different things that go on at this time of year, I decided to deepen into that. And as a ministerial student, we're invited to open our hearts and look around us and be open and available to really what wants to come forward in our message. And what I realized is glad tidings of great joy. It's wanting to be called forward, but I discovered that joy likes to play hide and seek. You didn't know that, did you? Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, says, "I am the spirit of joy within me." The spirit of joy within me and within you? Well, yes, joy is a spiritual God quality. It's in every one of us. Each one of us possesses it. It's available to us. But a lot of times, especially at this time of year, joy is often forgotten, or it's tucked away, or it's hiding somewhere. That's what I meant by joy plays hide and seek. So, especially at this time, if joy is really not present in this recent time, or if it's been many, many years, there are things that we can do to enhance our joy. The holiday lights, the songs, the greetings from loved ones and friends, the glittery presents that are everywhere. Sometimes they're just painful reminders that this season brings up in us grief and loneliness, maybe great sadness. And yet, I'm hoping today that we can discover a few ways to bring joy and reignite that joy within us. When I hear joy is in her hiding mode, I really like to pause, because it's hard to notice and experience joy when we've tucked it away, when we're not truly present. So there are three things that I'm going to talk about today. Recognizing joy is a choice. It truly is a choice. You have to be present to joy to experience it. Your mind can't be clouded. And joy is an inside job. Sure, it looks pretty out here, but joy is that essence, that feeling that comes up from within. My talk today, Unexpected Gifts, will take a look at the sometimes jaded expectations we have in life. And there are a few tools that we can use to spark joy, find joy, and express joy, even when life isn't showing up like maybe we had hoped. So what are tidings? I had to look that up. What are tidings of great joy? Well, it's a greeting, but it also is a reminder to pay attention. And to pay attention to joy, to pay attention to the other person, because that person out there is really a whisper from God that joy is present. So when someone gives you a greeting, good tidings of great joy, it's a reminder that joy is present. When we show up as joy, we spark the light. We light the path for others. We can see the spark in the dark when the darkness is all around us, and we could journey forth towards that light. And at the same time, turn up the joy meter in our own lives. So what is great joy? Well, I consider great joy to be another name for God. Some people call God love or peace, harmony, or light. There are many, many names that we can call God. But I like to think of God as joy, great joy. For me, joy is the spark that lights me up. It's the connection I feel that rises up from within me. It is that sense of oneness with all things. It's a vibration and a connection, knowing that we are all infinitely and eternally connected, somehow or another. And that I am part of that great infinite mystery. The inspiration for my talk was actually sparked by this book. Reverend Jill and I, we previewed a couple books on the topic of great tidings of joy, and I ordered this right away. And when it arrived, I was giddy with anticipation. It was beautiful. I stroked the pages. I looked at the cover. I was just enthralled by its beauty and excitement. I couldn't wait to dive in. And as I thumbed through the index here and I looked at all the chapter titles, and I thought, oh, these are going to be great topics. I could really get into that. I could give a message on that. But as I got in a little deeper, I found out that it really wasn't meeting up to my expectations. I'm sure that it's wonderful and glorious, but it didn't light that spark for me. And I was ready for it. I was anticipating it. I was expecting it. So, when joy doesn't show up, when the expectations in our outer experiences really don't align with our desires and our anticipation, are we unhappy? Are we allowing our thoughts to cloud? There's a quote from Ernest Holmes from the book Thoughts Are Things. Unhappiness is a habit. Nobody ever thrived mentally or physically by dwelling on the negative aspects of living. As much as we might seemingly enjoy self-indulgence, we are blinding ourselves to the real joy of living. Perhaps we have never realized that a better existence is even possible. So, by now, maybe you're wondering what's in this box. As a child, we get presents and we get excited and we think that maybe inside is that cooking set or that favorite truck that we've been wanting, or the doll or the stuffed animal. And we look at its shape and we look at its size. Sometimes we shake it and we just know exactly what's in it. And the excitement builds until we can open it up. As we get older, what's inside the box might be that loving relationship we're calling forward. We just know it's out there. Or that dream vacation we've been always wanting to take. Or that career that we've been striving for our whole life. It's right there. I can taste it. I can see it. I can smell it. It's right there, wrapped up, ready for me, right there. It could be a clean bill of health or that vibrant, thriving financial portfolio. Whatever it is, we have high expectations. Well, let's take a look. You ready? Oh. Well, this isn't what I expected. I'm a little disappointed. It's lemons. Well, you've all heard that saying, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade, right? So what does that have to do with science of mind? Well, Ernest Holmes, the founder of our teaching, taught universal principles. He taught us to recognize our source and know that we are one with it. That we can use the power of our own mind to make new choices. We can eliminate some of those thoughts and create new choices. We can activate universal law, which will respond to our thoughts and coupled with our faith to bring about changes in our individual lives. More simply put, is change your thinking, change your life. So here we have lemons. We could make lemonade. The points I want to make are recognizing that joy is a choice. When my dad was around, people would ask, "How are you doing, Hal?" And he'd always say, "If I were any better, I'd be twins." I love that saying. I asked him one time, I said, "Hey, Dad, why do you say that? If you were any better, you'd be twins." And he said, "I heard this story one time about a guy named Jerry. And Jerry worked in the restaurant business. Jerry would go to work every day, and he'd have a positive attitude, and he would mentor all the young waiters and bus help that were in the restaurant. And if they were having a troubling day, he would say, 'Attitude is everything. Attitude is everything.'" And when Jerry would go from restaurant to restaurant, all the waiters and bus people would follow him because they got inspired. He was a great mentor and a great motivator. Somebody asked him one time, "Jerry, how can you be so positive and so upbeat each and every day?" And he said, "When I wake up in the morning, I have a choice. I can be in a good mood or I can be in a bad mood. I choose to be in a good mood." And they said, "Well, what about all the bad things that happen?" And he goes, "Well, every time something bad shows up, I have a choice. I can be a victim to those circumstances, or I can choose to learn from it. I choose to learn from it." "But Jerry, what about if someone comes to you and they're full of negativity and they're just complaining? "Ah," Jerry says, "I can listen to their complaints and absorb all their negativity, or I can choose to point out the positive aspects of life and of the situation. I choose to point out the positive side." Well, that's easy for you. That's easy for you. So one day, Jerry did something that he'd never done before. He's working in the restaurant, and he leaves the back door to the restaurant unlocked. And some robbers broke in, and they held Jerry up at gunpoint. And Jerry got a little nervous as he was turning the dial on the safe. And the robbers got nervous because Jerry was nervous, and they shot him. And as he's laying there in a pool of blood, about to lose his life, the robbers run out, and it just so happened that an employee showed up and found him there and got him to the paramedics, and the paramedics put him in the ambulance. The ambulance took him to the hospital, and they rushed him into the emergency room. And it was there that Jerry could see in the faces of the doctors and the nurses around him that this did not look good. The paramedics had told him, "Oh, you'll be fine," but the doctors and the nurses said it all. And Jerry said, "In that instant, I had a choice. and I decided I was going to live, that I wanted to live. That was my choice. And so the nurses are barking orders, and they're asking Jerry for his vitals, and they're saying, "Jerry, are you allergic to anything?" And he said, "Yes, I'm allergic to bullets." So as the doctors and the nurses chuckled, they decided right then and there that Jerry did, in fact, want to live. And Jerry did. And he went on, and he taught us all that attitude is everything. Yes, the doctors and nurses saved his life, but an attitude within himself allowed him to live a better life. I want you to realize that this little story reminds us that an attitude, a positive attitude within ourselves, is a spiritual practice. Being present to joy is a spiritual practice. The second point I want to make is you have to be present to experience joy. It's very easy to let the chatter in our heads diminish our joy. Now, we can be engulfed by grief or loneliness, anger, and judgment, especially when times are difficult and hard. The book Reverend Jill has chosen for our book study this month, The Joy Plan, How to Stop Worrying and Quit Complaining, is a delightful example of little tips and tricks on reminding us to be present. We cannot be present to joy, to the song that Cerise sings, to the embrace of a friend, when our mind is clouded by so many other things. In the book, Kaya describes an activity she calls, "Does it feel good?" It's where we recognize and get in tune with our inner joy. We can amp up our awareness, and we can become present to the people, the places, and the conditions in our lives. And we ask ourselves, does this feel good? If we're spending too much time around people that bring us down, or the news that is filling our heads, we can limit that exposure. We have a choice. We can surround ourselves with the people and the places and the things that bring us joy. And we can become present to it by being still and mindful and in the moment. Now, Kaya is not suggesting that we lay around eating bonbons all day or binge watching Netflix and forgetting about the laundry. Those things still are important, but being open and available to noticing joy comes from a place of calm, comes from a place of poise. It's also a reminder that what we focus on expands. If we focus on the negative, it expands. If we focus on the positive, it expands. Joy is an inside job. Nobody can do it for you. It's got to come from within. Recently, I taught the Prosperity Plus class. What a delightful group. There are several in the room that joined me for that class. And we were invited to have a greater experience of financial abundance, of better relationships, of greater health. And the one that I was intrigued by was vocare, our vocation. Being in ministerial school, sorry, I'm getting a little teary-eyed here. I just started my senior year, and I decided to deepen into that. So during the 10 weeks of the Prosperity Plus class, I deepened into vocare. I was working in real estate, and I could tell my heart just really wasn't in it anymore. It wasn't feeding me. It just wasn't lighting me up anymore. So I asked, what work could I do that would be in greater alignment with my future ministry? I had to go within and do my inner work. It's an inside job. It's a work that we can only do for ourselves, and no one else can do it for us. Each student in the class had to do their own work and come each week and do their own growth. I needed to look at where my life is today and where I want my life to be, and I needed to make some choices. I looked at what I wanted to contribute to the world and how I wanted the world to show up. I looked at ways I could tap my own inner joy. So I journaled and I meditated. I went for long walks. I leaned into my prayer partners. I did spiritual mind treatments. And there goes my earring. And I decided to become a freelancer. Thank you, dear. I'm going to take an inside job for the DOJ. No, it's not the Department of Justice. I am a freelancer doing an inside job for the distributor of joy. So I am here right now speaking to each and every one of you, sharing from my heart, being fully present to the gifts that each one of you bring in my life as the distributor of joy. There's only one me, and I take full responsibility of my life for the choices that got me here and for the seeds that I'm planting for my tomorrow. Going back to the lemons, maybe real estate didn't play out exactly as I thought it would. But what I realize is the unexpected gifts, when we remember who we are and where we came from, that we are infinitely connected to an unlimited source of joy, that each of us has the freedom to choose. Just like Jerry, you have a choice each and every day. You can choose to see joy in new and different ways in the relationships and the conditions that you find yourself currently in. We can remember that outside appearances do not necessarily determine our joy. And by practicing the awareness of joy, we can attract more and more and more joy to us. And in the darkness, the sparks we see are the sparks of others who are radiating the joy and illuminating our path to call us forward in life. We don't have to navigate the darkness alone. So today, I want to leave you with this. Be present to what is, right where you are, because right where you are is perfect. And share the glad tidings of great joy. Thank you. Please join me in an affirmative prayer. How truly grateful I am to be standing here in this present moment, present and aware to the joy that is ever present. I recognize the light and the love and the laughter and the applause. It's all God. And I know that in this very moment, that joy, that light, that love is emanating in and through and as me, perfectly and uniquely and individually. And it is reflecting and expressing uniquely and individually as each and every person gathered here today. And I know that in this very moment, we are infinitely blessed. We are bound to one another in infinite joy. And in the darkness, there is always a light. I bless everything that is on our hearts and minds today, knowing that it is wrapped up with loving arms in the presence of this prayer. I give thanks for the volunteers, for our beautiful musical guest artists. I am grateful for the lights of the season and the glad tidings that we share with one another. I just know that as we go forward throughout our week, that we can be those sparks of light, those sparks of joy, illuminating the path for all others. I release this prayer unto the action of law, knowing that it is really already done. I let it go and I let it be. And together we say, and so it is.